Okay, today I'll be talking about Jackson State Prison, which is the Michigan State Penitentiary that was actually closed down and moved from Jackson State. So, how many of you guys have actually wondered what prison is like before? I'm sure many of you have experienced this and thought about what prison's like. So, as you can see, this is actually located in Jackson. So here's actually the new prison. You can see it's a skyward view, and here is actually a picture of it inside of Jackson. You can see actually the whole time it's kind of built around the prison, which is actually kind of unique for it. Because usually when you think of prison, you think of actually being away from everything, so in case someone escaped, they kind of go to one, for example, like Alcatraz. But this is completely different. So this is the old prison. So it was opened in 1839 on a 28 acres of land, and it had about 2 to 3 prisoners per cell, which it actually had a big overcrowding problem due to this. Now, this is actually the old prison picture before it's closed down, and this is actually a picture of the cafeteria where they would eat where they eat all their meals and stuff like that. So, one of the most known riots was actually the riots in 1839. It involved 35 inmates, where 10 actually inmates overpowered 2 of the guards. Then another riot was in 1912, where a riot started where plates were actually thrown at the wall, and fighting also occurred. It lasted 6 days, and 90 people were involved in this riot. It's actually the 1912 riot is probably the most notorious and most involved of the old prison. So the new prison. So because of the old crowding and kind of the degrading of the old prison, they created a new one, which allowed it to be built on 57.5 acres. It was actually inmates were officially moved to it in 1934, and actually had 12 watchtowers, 16 cell blocks containing about 130 cells in each block, which is actually pretty good. And here's a picture of it. You can see it's actually just surrounded by farmland, which I said earlier is actually what you more expected on prison. So in case someone escaped, they really can't go anywhere. It's easier to find. So the 1954 riot. So this is the biggest riot in the new prison. So it had caused $2.5 million in today's dollar damage. Then it started on April of 1954, where it started by 2 maximum security prison actually overpowered a guard and taking the keys, and then they unlocked all cell blocks, releasing prisoners. And it lasted 5 days, and there was 2,600 inmates involved in this riot. So here is actually a clip from the movie that's actually is based upon this riot. So an interesting fact actually about the riot is that the demands actually where they wanted to investigate the corruption in the prison between guards and the warden, which I felt was pretty good, and actually the demands were met. However, the leaders of the prison of the riot were actually punished for it, and I believe they were put to death. Now here's some side effects. So, and the picture to the left is actually the older prison, and you'd have actually like 3 to 4 people per this. And the right one is the new one. In this old one was about like 4 feet to 6 feet tall, well, dimensions. The new one was about 5 to 7, which is actually way bigger, and you can see way more spacious, and you'd actually prefer to spend time in there. Now, here are some old prison facts. So the old prison, it was actually by 1882, it had 3,840 prisoners in it, which actually was at this time was the record-breaking involved having the most prisoners in it at the time. Then also the new prison broke the record in 1926, holding nearly 6,000 inmates in it, and guards at this time made $16.80 an hour, which is actually in today's dollars, which in today's dollars is not that bad of a rate, or today it's way higher. And also, some other random facts. So, in 1924, there actually was a pea soup riot took place, which involved where inmates didn't tolerate the amount of pea soups, how disgusting it was, served for lunch and dinner, so they actually started riots to try to get better food, which I believe their demands were met for that. Then, after the old prison was closed, it actually became used by the National Guard for training and stuff like that. Then it was, so due to the lack of money in the old prison, prisoners bathed and washed their clothes only twice a month, which I imagine the smell and the hygiene would just be incredibly bad, and I imagine disease could run rapid in that prison and cause a big problem. Now, actually, so here is actually footage of what we took in real life when we actually went through the prison, and just showing how it was changed differently. So it's the old prison video. Now, this is Rung LaFleur, which actually is the most well-known convict of the prison. So, growing up, Run actually suffered from heroin addiction and was arrested when he tried to rob a grocery store. And that went wrong, and he was charged and went for 9 years in prison and arrested in 1967. However, he only served 3 years of those because he was known to be good at baseball and actually started a baseball program in the prison. And then the Detroit Tigers actually bailed him out of prison, and he started playing for them for a couple years, eventually transferred. And I feel like it's a, as it says, a 1 in a million chance of it. And kind of inspires people that just because you go in prison doesn't mean your life is destroyed. Now, so the real life video showed these are actually the apartments which he showed, and we actually went down this hallway, as you can see, and it's actually the old prison was turned into apartments, which is basically a studio, and they surrounded in artwork so it doesn't look so depressing for being a prison, but it's all concrete still, everything looks the same. And that is all for our presentation. I hope you guys learned something in prison and hopefully don't end up here the rest of your day.